All right. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Hello, everyone, wherever you are located. And welcome back to CASP's webinar series for the year 2024. And we continue on our discussion on administrative traditions in African countries. And there are a lot of familiar names in the group chat and some colleagues as well around here. So we wish to welcome you back and to thank you as well for your diligent attendance in CASP's webinars. And yes, so for this week's topic, we are going to be continuing our focus on administrative traditions in African countries, particularly focusing on two case studies, namely in Cabo Verde and Senegal. And we are really, really delighted to be welcoming Professor Crisanto Barros and Professor Mbengue among us today to talk about these topics. Thank you, Mamdin, for the next slide. Yeah, a little bit of background on CASP for the new members who are joining, and for those who have not, who are not familiar with CASP work. We are an academic collaboration among researchers based in Switzerland at the University of Bern, and those of us here based in Mauritius. And our idea behind CASP has started small, and it's growing steadily and gradually over the years. We started during the pandemic. I'm sorry, I think I have that on my side. Okay, yeah. So we started during the pandemic in 2020, and Amandine, Amar, and I, we met over Zoom, and we thought about our interdiscipline, our respective disciplines rather, in international relations, in digital technologies for Amar, and in public administration for Amandine. And we started thinking about areas where we could collaborate. And our, of course, primary focus being on the African countries and the rich knowledge that we can get from the continent and from the different countries. So based on that came the idea of the Center for African Smart Public Value Governance, abbreviated to C4SP, but pronounced as CASP. And every year since then, we've had different activities. We've had short-term goals, and we have long-term goals. And annually, we've had either a webinar series that started in 2021, and then we've had the lecture series after that. And at the moment, we have webinar series, and obviously focusing on different themes. And our aims as well are twofold. We are, of course, very interested in theoretical contributions of our work, which is happening, of course, in regards to refining theories in organization studies, and of course, bringing in the African perspective to the subject. Practically as well, we aim to be working with stakeholders in the public sector and also beyond, and to work alongside with them in improving the quality of public governance approaches in Africa. So moving on to the next slide. And as I said, we've had several contributions over the years. Our first webinar series resulted in a journal article that was published in the Africa Journal of Management. That was 2023 last year. And this year we are really, really, really excited that I've got the book with me. I'm sorry, I know you can't see it because of my background, but we've got our chapter that has been published in the Pathways to Positive Public Administration. It's an edited volume. And our chapter was focusing on the case study of the light rail transit system in Mauritius, how it was implemented, and how the stakeholders were mindful of different cultural and local customs and traditions. So we applied the theory of sense giving. We are really, really thrilled to announce that our chapter is published open access. So we can share the link, or you can follow our CASP webpage as well for the link which is available. And I take the opportunity of this recorded session as well to thank the editors for covering the cost of the book, such that actually it was made free open access to everyone, and also each contributor as well was gifted, you know, a free copy of the book. So they made that happen. So on that note, I've been sharing spoilers about something exciting about CASP so long, and we are really, really proud to share that the chapter has been published. And we look forward to everyone involved in CASP and beyond to be engaging with our work, to provide us feedback, and to use that as food for thought for further discussions on our respective topics of interest. So thank you. On that note, that's my introduction. Over to you, Imamdin.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Adila. And let's start to this year's webinar series, which is entitled Administrative Traditions in African Countries. We had our first webinar with Guy Peters, who joins us also today. On the concept, he has worked on administrative traditions, kind of a concept trying to explain why certain countries act and their bureaucracies act in a certain way, why there are differences and similarities among countries, between countries. And types of these traditions, such as the Anglo-American tradition or the Napoleonic traditions, of course, also traditions that have influenced during the colonial time certain countries in Africa. And our aim is to understand how exactly was this influence, but also what are pre-colonial traditions that shape bureaucratic behavior. So the focus of this webinar series in this year is to understand the role of administrative traditions in these 6 democracies in Africa, which are Botswana, Cape Verde, Ghana, Mauritius, Senegal, and South Africa. We already had the inputs about South Africa and Botswana. Today, it's Cape Verde and Senegal. And then we're going to have our last input about Mauritius and Ghana in November. So here the timeline, we're also envisaging kind of a summary next year, once we have run all the country inputs. Quick thank you also to the Digitalization Committee of the University of Bern. They sponsored the setup of this webinar. So thank you very much again for this support we got by the University of Bern. As already introduced by Adila, today we welcome Professor Moustapha Mbengue and Professor Crisanto Barros to provide their inputs on Senegal and Cape Verde. So thank you very much for being here. Professor Moustapha Mbengue, he is working at the University Cheikh Anta Diop in Dakar in Senegal, and he's also director of the École des bibliothécaires, archivistes et documentalistes. EBADS abbreviated. He holds a PhD in Information and Communication Science from the University of Paris. And thanks to this experience, he particularly is interested in understanding how, for example, virtual library works, and in a broader context, the role of digital culture and also electronic governance, particularly in West Africa. So we are really glad that he forms part of this project and of this webinar series to share his insights and his experience on those topics we want to work on. Also, thank you very much and welcome to Professor Crisanto Barros, professor at the Faculty of Social Sciences in Humanities and Arts of the University of Cape Verde. His research focus is particularly in understanding how the state is formed, particularly how the Cape Verdean political administration's elites in the post-independence period has been established. So he's a particular interest in understanding the legacies of colonialism and also understanding state development, economic growth, and democracy development. So it's another perspective on understanding how public administrations are formed, a historical approach that is also very well valued through this project, and we are eager to hear his understanding and his country context on Cape Verde. Crisanto Barros, as we of course all know, Africa is diverse and Africa is not only English speaking. So he's going to provide his presentation in French. And of course, if needed, we are happy to help for some traductions. We will also see whether the Zoom traduction might work. But I think that makes sense that everybody speaks in her language, and we try to help each other to ensure that everybody understands the content. So thank you very much for being here, everybody, again. And please, Moustapha, I hand over to you and to your input. I will close my presentation so that you can share your slides.
Okay. Is it okay now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Amandim and Ajila, for your kind introduction. I'd just like to apologize for my English because I'm French speaker. My English is not so fluent, but I'll try to do my best so that you really understand what I mean. If something is not clear, maybe Amandim will help on translating. Thank you so much. Well, I'd like to talk about administrative traditions in Senegal. Senegal is my country. Okay, so for my outlines, I would like to make a small introduction as a background before talking about pre-colonial area, particularly the Jolof Empire, which was the biggest empire in West Africa in Senegal before the colonization. From 13th to 16th century. After that, I will talk about colonial area from 1816 to 1960. And after the post-independence area after 1960, before talking about state and public services for our government of the day. And finally, I finish with a conclusion. As you say, Senegal is a country in West Africa between Mauritania here and Guinea-Bissau and Guinea, and here have Mali. And in our west border, we have the Atlantic Ocean. Senegal is bordered with the Atlantic Ocean. So for background, we can say that our capital is Dakar and our official language in French, but we do have almost 20 other languages here in Senegal, like Wolof, Sera, and so on. But the more speaking Wolof, the more speaking language here in Senegal is Wolof. Almost all Senegalese people can understand Wolof. Okay, and if you see Wolof and Jolof, Jolof is the empire I will talk about, and Jolof was the empire with Wolof people, okay? Almost 97% of Senegalese are Muslims, and 2% Christianity, and almost 1% for other religions. We have almost 196,722 square kilometers of superficie. And our population is almost about 18,847,590. Before being now a republic, Senegal was also a member of what was called the Federation of Mali during the colonization, and French West Africa. We do have some empires before, like Tukulor Empire, Imanat of Futa, Empire of Grand Fula, Kayor Kingdom, Jolof Empire, Walo Tekru. We do have some small kingdoms and one big empire named Jollof Empire. That's why I choose Jollof to talk about, because this was the biggest one empire. So, what to say about our government? Senegal is a presidential republic. We have the president, the prime minister, and the president of the National Assembly. Okay, our republic is established since 1958, and we get our independence in 1960 from France. So, a president system or single executive system. Politics in Senegal takes place with the framework of presidential democratic republic. The president of Senegal is the head of state and government. Executive power in Senegal is concentrated in president's hand. So, let us now talk about pre-colonial area. And I took the case of Jollof from 13th century to 16th century. You have this empire, as I said, was the biggest one. It was a monarchy, but this monarchy was hereditary and elective. It seems to be some, well, how to say in English, some paradoxal. Heredity and elective. Okay? Let us talk about a little political power. The elitist nature of these royal candidates, the function of Bourba Jollof, who was the king of the empire, and the system who was marked with feudalism, and what we call the college of Greek electors, named Jenki in our languages, and how was the enthronement ritual after this king was elected, and the representative and autonomous nature of the assemblies. Okay, access to the position of king is open to all members of the beneficiary family. The beneficiary family is naturally the family of the king. To be a king, you should be what we call a royal blood. You should be members of one of the family. But the king cannot say, this is my heir, the one who will take the power after me. All members of the family who are interested being king must apply, and the college of electors will have to choose which is the best one. Before choosing him, you have to see, to make some criteria. The electoral college have considered latitude to prefer one candidate to another. In Cairo, which is another kingdom, the electoral, let me just move the electoral college that brings the Damel is the king of Cairo, to power, is always faced with the title with varying degree of success. They can use someone because of merit. This guy is very, he's a warrior, let us say. He has some value, and he believes really in the kingdom, and they can say he is the best one. So the election was subject to a certain number of conditions, sometimes linked to merit, and sometimes to birth or both, and generally both. You have to be member of the family of the king, you have royal blood, and you have some merit, which means that not everyone could be admitted to the position. Now that's why it is a monarchy, because we have a king, but this monarchy is hereditary and elected. So, well, let us talk about administration. In administration, we have the head office, which is the king and members of his and some advisors. We have the territorial government, we have the military command, the government finances, the judicial system, and a mission of control and administration. The Jollofian administration mirrored to the different social strata that made up the kingdom's population. All social categories, from princess by blood to slave, were represented. The king of Jollof was assisted by 5 groups of officials: members of the royal family, palace officers, representatives of the trade, administrative agents, and governors of provinces or large villages. Some hereditary function at state or provincial level, while others were appointed by the king. Among these officials were court dignitaries, ministers of sword, advisors, territorial chief, general, and so on. Okay, we can also assume that the elitist nature of the royal candidate, the hereditary linked to the birth of the candidate to be a royal blood, and the representative autonomous nature of this assembly of, and the mission and control and administration. The election college is not only a college that helps electing the king, but he also controls what the king is doing. If this guy do well, he still support him. If not, they can decide to make him, how to say, to take back the power and then to choose another king. Okay. So this system was destabilized by the arrivals of the European, okay? Because the involvement of the political leaders of Jollof and other world states in the slave trade introduced changes to the political system and led to institutional and legal disruption. Violences was legalized and permanent insecurity set. Normally, this should be a comment. Since my English is not good, I prefer to make this as a text so that we all can read it now. At the root of these disturbances was the European presence of the Senegalese coast. Secondly, the introduction of firearms by the Portuguese, Dutch, English, and French traders aggraved the succession conflicts that were beginning to operate in the Senegalese kingdom. What to say is, Jollof was an empire who doesn't have some borders with the ocean. And when French arrived, they were settled in the ocean. And all small kingdoms which have borders with the ocean were able to buy firearms and then to make some trade with the European. And Jollof, which was isolated, can't have this possibility. So this small empire, which can buy firearms and trade with colonials, became more powerful, and then finally they refuse still being in Jollof Empire, and they create all these their small kingdoms, and that's like this. The Jollof Empire was disparate. Okay, and here are some former kingdoms. You see, Jollof is here, and Jollof Empire was all this, and these empires, these small kingdoms, have border with ocean. When Black people arrived, these kingdoms was able to get firearms and to make trade with Black colonials, and Jollof cannot. That's why finally Jollof falls down. Okay. After that, the colonial area from 1816 to 1960. As France gradually carved out its colonial empire, it was concerned to set up an administration capable of managing the domain, but it also created institutions in metropolitan France responsible for defining colonial actions, giving it a direction in order to create the synthesis necessary for unity of view and action. The most important of these institutions was the Ministry of the Colonized. That's what said Salim Bey. Salim Bey is my colleague. He's professor, and he is the former director of the National Archives of Senegal. He wrote 2 books on Senegal as institutional, before colonial institution and after colonial institution. These books are very, very, very interesting for knowing about administrative here in Senegal. 2 particularities of this period. A ministry of colonized, far removed from the territories it is responsible for governing, and responsible for all political, economic, social, financial, and military activities in the colonies. So, the colonial area from 1816 to 1960, you have administration with Minister of Colonized governs from Paris. The governor administers on site, and the governor has a cabinet, office, general secretary, technical direction, council of government. The combination of their action determined the France policy in Africa. So during the colonization, we do have a governance. We do have three methods of governance. We have first the policy of subjugation. Subjugation is to place a people or a nation under absolute domination. We also have the policy of assimilation and the policy of autonomy. During the policy of subjugation, the colonized are made for the benefit of the metropolis. The natives are not citizens but subjects, and the colony does not participate in its own administration. After that, France tried the policy of assimilation, which is another way of governing. No distinction between the colony and the metropolis. The administrative structure of the colony is modeled on that of the metropolis. The interests of the colony were taken into account in the same way as those of the metropole. Inhabitants of colonial origin participate in the general and local administration. This is different from the policy of subjugation. And finally, they try the policy of autonomy. The colony has a minor that must be prepared to govern itself, and colony has a center of special interest distinct from metropolitan, as was treated as a partner. So, after that, Senegal got his independence and post-independence administrative system after 1970. We do have an administrative with hybrid foundation. Hybrid because we inherited something from the colonized, and Senegal tried to reinvent his own administration. And in this administration, we do have some functions which we don't have in the colonial area. Something like a mediator of the Republic, which is the State of Senegal Institute, a mediator of the Republic, as an independent authority responsible for improving citizens' relation with the administration by receiving under the condition laid down by law complaints concerning the operation of state administration, local authorities, public establishments, and any other body instituted with a public service mission. And we do have also what is called BOM, in French, Bureau d'Organisation et Méthode, Organization and Methods Office, which was the cornerstone in the creation, reform, and coherence of administrative structure. It was created in 1968 by President Senghor. It gave rise to the delegation of or management public. This organization was created to better lead the renovation of the Senegalese administration by drawing inspiration from the science of management. Oh, and we do have some political parties. At the beginning, we have a monopartical system. And then it was open to 2 parties. And finally, it is unlimited now. And we do have in Senegal over than 1,300 parties. And in this period, we also see recognition of chiefdoms on a symbolic basis, an affirmation of religious power in agreement with the state, and an influential civil society. So now the institution of the Republic of Senegal are the President of the Republic, the National Assembly, the government, the High Council of Territorial Collectivities, and the Economic, Social, and Environmental Council, and the Constitutional Council, the Supreme Court, and the According Court and Tribunals. But these 2 institutions, the High Council of Territorial Collectivities, the Economic, Social, and Environmental Council, will be soon off, because our Senegal has for 6 months now new president and our new government. Our government of the day thinks that these 2 institutions cost very expensive to our republic, and they propose to suppress them. And now we've been trying to vote a new constitution that will spell this out of our institution, these 2 institutions. So, what to say about state and public services? State traditional, which is organic. État, only here in Senegal, we say État, nation. The state and the nation, something is organic. The state is assumed to be linked organically with the society. The President of the Republic is a protector of the institution, as it says in our constitutional Article 42. It was inspired in Napoleonic system. Law and management, I will say management because civil servants are involved in decision making. They have managerial responsibilities. The law is a beginning point rather than the ending point for managerist public administration. This seems to be Scandinavia, according to the text of you said that according to them. Administrative and politics, this is hybrid for me. Administrative and political careers are supposed to be separate. But civil servant, and especially civil servant towards the top of the administrative, are expected to be politically sensitive, if not politically active, in making and executing law. We do have some politicization of the bureaucracy, like this is inspired to Napoleon, according to the text of you send it us. Administration and services, it is administration, civil servant as tools of the state, and so human rights, and jubal jubanti means trying to make all this to be done in the right way, okay. What about career? Career, I will say it's mixed up because we, as in Napoleonic traditional, we do have some school like ENA in France, we have ENA in Senegal, School of National Administration, and we have a faculty that train all professors and other training structures like, and we have civil servant as in generals. Donc you are not obliged to be trained in national administration school to be a civil servant. You can, it's mixed. You can come from another school. Interest group relationship, the most important one is, I say, religious group and traditional chivalry. we do have the society, syndicates, employers. It was Napoleonic and Anglo-American inspiration. Uniformity, it is uniform, control and equality across the country, governor, prefects, and local servants. This is also Napoleonic. Civil society play a watchdog and warning role period, both to ensure that the constitution is respected, particularly during the election. This is normally a comment. But also monitors budget, transparency program, and respect for the human rights. Religious institutions and communities have the right to develop without hindrance. They are free from the tutelage of the state. And this is also recognized by our constitution. They regulate and administer their affairs autonomously. Religious leaders continue to act as mediators between the state and its citizens. And they also play a role in parallel democracy with other Muslim countries in particular. Religion still has a strong influence on the state, which consults them before each change of government, and sometimes asks them to propose some people to the government as ministers, for example. They sometimes choose the mayor or deputy of the locality where their headquarters are located. As in the case of Touba, which is a city, a religious city. In this city, the religious chief have to propose one candidate for as a mayor. And once he proposes someone, no one will apply for being a mayor. It means that this candidate will surely be the mayor this city. Okay, Touba have almost a special status, because we have, even for security, we have the police of the Republic, and we do have a parallel police of this city, chosen by the chief, the religious chief. Some activities are forbidden in these cities, like playing football, like going to party, like wearing some sort of clothes. It's forbidden. And Touba is a city which is in Senegal, and all this is accepted in Senegal, but in Touba, the Marabout says we can't play football, we can't go dancing, we can't wear clothes like that, and so on and so on. It's almost a special status. Okay. Now I try to answer to some questions about how the colonial past influences bureaucracy in Senegal. Has it, and what do the answers this question mean regarding the future developing of the country's public sectors? I'll just try as conclusion. Okay, so what to say is the traditional chieftains were already present in the deliberate assemblies of colonization, in particular the Circle Commander and the Council of Notables. Traditional chieftaincy still exists in Senegal on a symbolic basis. We have Grand Serigne de Dakar, which is the chief of the Lebu collectivity in Dakar. And we do have the King of Ousi. Ousi is part of South Senegal. And we still have the King of Sine Saloum, which is a former kingdom in Senegal, but this is just in symbolic term. During the colonial era, as in the current administration, Senegal celebrates both Christian and Muslim holidays, which were declared public holidays. One day, one of my French colleagues tell me we can make a bet, because I say Senegal is the country who has the more important days as holidays celebrate. If you can show me another country who present more days as holidays than Senegal, I'll give you $1,000. But I was not able to answer to this question, because we celebrate all Muslims and Christians holidays. Election are the only way of choosing our leaders from Jolof Empire to now, except in case of force majeure. Senegal has never experienced a military coup d'etat. whereas all its neighboring countries have experienced several. Democracy is somehow going on in Senegal, somehow because we do have some troubles sometimes. Colonial Council meetings are public, as are those of the National Assembly of our government. The Assembly, like the Colonial Council, meets in ordinary session once a year by doing budget orientation law, and also an extraordinary session to rule on specific subject. It was exactly the same thing during the colonization system. Practically the same institution as in France. You do have the same institution. Civil servants were trained in school identical to those of the colonial area. And école normale of teachers, our teachers is trained in école normale, like as in French. Well, I would just add something about the griot. The griot is a community of traditional communicators. During the pre-colonial era, griots were advisors of kings. And a king do not have to speak loudly in the assembly. He speak shortly, and the griot have to transmit the king voice. And after the colonization, since we did not have a kingdom or something like that, griots did the same thing with marabouts, with religious chiefs. And now, even in our government of the day, each president have one griot who is his advisor and who transmit his voice. This is something which is heredited from pre-colonial to now. The griot traditional communicators who conveyed the message of the kings in pre-colonial times, those of marabouts in colonial times, and now those of the president of the republic and today's religious leaders. So, for future development, pre-colonial, as in pre-colonial area, relying on local chiefs to set up his administration and assert his authority. Colonial area, as in colonial area, respecting culture and traditional leaders. Religious and non-religious institutions and communities are also recognized as means of education. In post-colonial area, as in post-colonial area, need to reinvent an administration based on our own culture, legacy. Our administration always change. Religious and civil society are mediators between the state and the population consulted at the installation of each government. I could talk about the administration now, but I don't have enough time. I just point out something as the administration for future development. Our government settled what we call governmental intranet to secure communication and release government bills, and to make service for efficiency and transparency in state management, and to bring state closer than citizens by making some e-government services, and to fight also corruption, because corruption is something which is very present in practically all African governments. That's why I wanted to share with you, expecting that you do understand what I mean. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. That was really insightful, and I have already a lot of questions. It sounds really interesting, as I see kind of having also a state in a state. So as said, we're going to have a broader discussion after both presentations. There's just one question that came up during your presentation by Christian Heberly, who asked, when you were talking about the pre-colonial area and the empires, whether there were also female leaders at that time, and how much they kind of resembled to kind of kings in on the British rule in Africa. What was their power then? Yeah. Maybe if you want quickly to respond to that, or?
I don't understand. Can you please?
So he raised the question whether there were also female rulers in the pre-colonial time.
Okay, we don't have female as kings, but female are very influential because every king has a female. And what I can female as sometimes warriors. The example what I can take is the example of the kingdom of Walo. Walo is a kingdom before colonization, and sometime when males went for war, it was only female in the villages, and some Moors from Mauritania came to capture them and to make them as slaves. And these females preferred to burn themselves in their own hut inside of accepting to be taken as slaves. In every kingdom, we have the king, and we have what we call a linger. A linger means the wife of the king, which is almost very influenced, but she don't have an official role accepted in the assembly. Females are not members of the assembly, but they can be advisors of the kings.
Thank you very much.
I can say it in French, it would be more fluent, but if you understand anyway, or you can explain.
Yeah, no, I think that was clear. I said we're still gonna have discussions at the end, but I suggest let's move on now with the second presentation first. So thank you very much again, Moustapha, for your very insightful input. And please, I hand over now to Crisanto Barros. Et là, comme on a dit, on va changer en français. Alors, merci Crisanto pour ta présentation.
Thank you. Mon anglais n'est pas. Je préférais parler en français, mais on débrouille en anglais. Hein, mais je n'ai pas du courage de speak in English in this presentation. But next meeting, I can presentation my communication in English. La présentation, c'est en français et le PowerPoint, c'était en anglais. Hein. Administrative tradition in Cape Verde. Tradition administrative au Cap Vert. Si on regarde, le Cap Vert était dans le carrefour dans le monde. C'est ici, vous regardez, c'était entre l'Afrique, l'Europe, l'Amérique et l'Amérique du Sud. Hein. C'est un archipel. Hein. C'est un petit archipel, 433 km², et 10 îles, sauf 9 étaient habitées. Hein. Elle était fondée par les Portugais, 1460, et surtout les Portugais, les Génovais, les Espagnols. Hein. Et nous n'avons pas la population au Cap-Vert à l'époque de la découverte. Ce sont des populations des Portugais qui vont porter au Cap-Vert les Africains réduits à condition d'esclaves de la côte ouest, Sénégal, du Guinée, du rive du Sénégal, hein, et Sierra Leone. La population, c'est la population qui était venue d'autres pays. Ils sont apportés au Cap-Vert. Mais quand on parle au Cap-Vert, à cette époque, on parle surtout de Santiago. Hein. Santiago, c'était la première île qui était habitée. Et le but c'est de faire le commerce de l'esclavage sur l'Atlantique, pour l'Amérique et surtout pour l'Amérique et pour l'Europe. Bon, on va présenter quelques indicateurs du Cap-Vert. Capitale, c'est à Praia, c'est le siège du gouvernement. La population, c'est presque millions d'habitants. Hein. Et on estime que la population au diaspora, c'est 2 fois la population du Cap-Vert. Surtout aux États-Unis, en Europe, dans l'Afrique continentale, surtout au Sénégal, Angola, Guinée, Mozambique, ex-colonie du Portugal. Les PIB du Cap-Vert, GDP, c'est 2 milliards de dollars et PIB par tête, c'est 3 000, presque 4 000 dollars. Le taux de chômage, c'est de 10% et surtout touche les jeunes, hein, comme par ailleurs. Le principal secteur de l'économie, c'est le secteur services, c'est tertiaire, qui génère 66% de l'emploi et est responsable pour 61% du PIB. Le tourisme aussi, c'est le principal moteur de l'économie d'archipel et représente environ 25% de la richesse. Hein. La langue capverdienne, c'est le créole capverdien, le capverdien, qui est une mix portugaise et de plusieurs langues que les populations du continent étaient apportées à Cap-Vert, surtout du Sénégal, Sierra Leone et Guinée-Bissau. Hein. Et la langue qui est parlée dans la vie quotidienne, et la langue portugaise, c'était la langue officielle dans l'espace formal de l'institution publique. Hein. La majorité de la population capverdienne était catholique. Hein. On a aussi, à cause de l'immigration, nous avons une population qui était islamique aussi. À ce moment, c'est la seconde au Cap-Vert. Et on a des protestants, des autres religions protestantes, adventistes et d'autres religions. Et aussi, le taux de scolarisation, c'est presque 93% et 7% qui étaient considérés analphabètes. Et l'espérance de vie, c'est 77 ans. Bon. Si on regarde le système politique capverdien, Cap-Vert, c'était un cas intéressant parce que plusieurs des populations qui sont apportées au Cap-Vert, ils ont la répression coloniale, ils ont perdu, sont imposés la réduction, l'élimination de sa langue maternelle. Hein. Cela fait qu'au Cap-Vert, on peut parler qu'au 19e siècle, on peut parler du Cap-Vert en tant que nation. Hein, en tant que nation, parce que vous avez des élites locales qui créaient une narrative par rapport au Cap-Vert, qui était déjà la langue de communication, c'est le créole, et vous avez l'élite intellectuelle qui va défendre l'intérêt du Cap-Vert. Cap-Vert était un pays indépendant en 1975 et après la lutte de libération en Guinée-Bissau des années 60, qui était conduite par le PAIGC. Hein. C'était qui était très centralisé. C'était un État. Nous avons des îles, mais c'était un État unitaire. C'est un État unitaire, centralisation avec la fédération, mais c'est un État unitaire. Après l'indépendance, nous avons un système de parti unique par rapport à beaucoup de pays africains. le système, c'était les partis uniques et c'est les partis qui étaient imposés après la lutte de libération nationale. Hein. Ces partis étaient gouvernés pendant 15 années et des années 90 et 80, 91 c'est en belge, 91, on a l'ouverture politique. Et c'était un cas intéressant parce qu'on a une négociation politique. Hein. Les partis au pouvoir avaient négocié avec les partis d'opposition l'ouverture politique qui aboutit à une large victoire de l'opposition. Hein. C'est une victoire très importante parce qu'on va voir qu'on a changé beaucoup de symboles, hein, les drapeaux, hein, et les hymnes étaient changés. Et l'élite, les partis uniques au pouvoir avaient accepté la victoire du parti du mouvement pour la démocratie. On va voir après que ce sont surtout des cadres de l'administration, hein, qui sont des cadres de l'administration qui vont sortir du parti unique, ils vont fonder un autre parti, Mouvement pour la démocratie, et qui était à partir de 1991, avoir des pouvoirs et changer. Hein. Les élections législatives 1991, on a un nouveau, ce n'est pas une nouvelle constitution, c'est une rénovation de la constitution, mais c'est une grande rénovation. Hein. On a institué un système qui était intéressant, c'est un système semi-présidentiel. Hein. Vous avez des présidents qui sont élus et le Premier ministre est nommé par le président, mais respecter des résultats des élections législatives. Hein. Les partis qui sont devenus en tête dans les élections législatives, c'est qu'il va être nommé pour la gouvernance. Okay? C'est une idée intéressante. C'est le Parlement qui approuve le programme du gouvernement. Et le gouvernement, il est de confidence avec le Parlement. Ce n'est pas avec le président. Le président est nommé le gouvernement, mais le gouvernement est de confiance avec le Parlement. Ce qu'on peut dire au Cap-Vert, c'est que les libertés individuelles est prévue dans la Constitution, elle est respectée. Hein, dans les médias, on a surtout beaucoup de journaux, ils sont libres pour publier. Et au cours de 30 années après la démocratie, on a des alternances. Alternance au gouvernement central, alternance aux municipalités, hein, et alternance aux présidences. Hein. On a 30 années, 5 présidents. Tous les présidents ont fait 2 mandats. Hein. Et le gouvernement, on a le gouvernement premier gouvernement après la démocratie pour 10 ans. Après, l'opposition a gagné pour 15 ans. Et maintenant, on a le gouvernement de l'opposition presque 10 ans. Hein. On a fait ce que Samuel Huntington dit, la 3e transition. Hein. On a fait 3e transition à l'élection législative et les élections municipales. Bon. Quand on parle de la tradition administrative au Cap-Vert, le cas du Cap-Vert, c'est différent par rapport à beaucoup d'autres pays. Nous n'avons pas une société avant la colonisation. Hein. La population était inhabitée et la population était devenue au Cap-Vert par les Portugais en tant qu'esclaves. Ils sont l'organisation administrative, c'est une organisation qui est une transposition de l'administration portugaise à l'administration capverdienne. Hein. Nous n'avons pas, comme le Sénégal, d'une tradition administrative de la population qui était autochtone avant la colonisation. Je n'aime pas le mot précolonial. parce que je crois que ce sont des sociétés, la colonisation, ce n'est pas inévitable. Et nous avions cette transposition, on peut analyser la transposition administrative en 5, j'ai catégorisé en 5 phases. On peut considérer comme, la transition administrative en 5 phases intéressantes. La première phase, c'est quand était le business, c'est le commerce d'esclavage. Ici, c'est une plateforme pour la traite négrière, à partir du siècle XV. Et vous avez des gens que les rois donnent de pouvoir pour faire des business au Cap-Vert. Hein. Nous avons le capitaine d'honneur, que c'est héréditaire, c'est des familles de la noblesse portugaise, et les conseils municipaux, qui sont des populations portugaises au Cap-Vert, qui participent dans la municipalité, qui sont les mairies, hein, qui sont composées pour les gens qui sont libres et qui sont surtout les blanches, qui ont capacité d'organiser l'administration et ont des pouvoirs de faire du commerce dans la côte, dans l'ouest d'Afrique. Hein. Nous avons aussi un corps administratif, c'est intéressant que nous avons des habitants blancs au Cap-Vert qui ont des pouvoirs sur la population noire, qui sont esclaves, mais aussi les gouverneurs au Portugal donnent des pouvoirs de contrôle à l'administration pour contrôler des populations qui avaient des pouvoirs de faire des commerces en Afrique occidentale. La deuxième phase, c'est la crise de l'économie négrière au Cap-Vert. Hein. Et 17e siècle, fin du 17e siècle, au début du 18e siècle, la plateforme de commerce d'esclaves, c'est aller pour l'Ouest Afrique continentale, la rive de Guinée, Sénégal. Et Portugal était dominé par l'Espagne à cette époque-là. Et les populations qui étaient les blancs qui sont au Cap-Vert sont partis à Afrique Ouest pour faire des business parce que le Cap-Vert n'est pas le centre des trafics de négrières. Hein? Et là, ce sont des élites locales qui sont des fils, ce sont des métis, ce sont des fils des Portugaises et des populations, des femmes noires, parce qu'ici au Cap-Vert, pendant le début, les femmes sont surtout, majorité, ce sont des noirs, ce ne sont pas des blancs. La femme blanche n'est pas arrivée au Cap-Vert. Ce sont des métis, ce sont eux qu'on appelle ici morgados, sont des big men, hein, des propriétaires qui vont entretenir, qui vont développer. La colonisation au Cap-Vert va être faite pour les gens qui sont nés au Cap-Vert, des élites capverdiennes. Ce ne sont pas. À partir du 18e siècle, les Portugais ne représentent que 2% de la population capverdienne blanche. Surtout, ce sont les métis et les noirs. Ils sont les métis qui se considèrent en tant qu'ils exercent le pouvoir au niveau local et au niveau municipal. Et ce sont eux qui vont se appeler les blancs. Blanc de la terre. Le blanc, ce n'est pas la couleur, mais c'est le statut du blanc qu'ils vont apporter. Ils sont eux qui vont faire la colonisation depuis le XVIIIe siècle. Et ce n'est pas la mer, les business, mais c'est la terre, c'est l'intérieur de la terre qui est le business. On a un renforcement du pouvoir de centralisation et aussi qui sont des hommes qui sont compteurs, sont responsables pour la compte. Ce sont de la bureaucratie pour contrôler les gens qui font des business, des commerces à l'Afrique de l'Ouest. La troisième phase, troisième phase. Ça, c'est intéressant. C'est le début du 19e siècle. On a jusqu'à 1974, avant l'indépendance, c'est quelques aspects importants. Hein. Ceci, c'est la révolution libérale, 1820, la nouvelle constitution portugaise, 1822, et introduit le code administratif. C'est une copie de la code napoléonique hein, à cette époque, parce que le Portugal était envahi par Napoléon, ils sont partis au Brésil. Et c'est là, ce code administratif fait des décentralisations des pouvoirs. Ce sont deux conseils municipalités qui ont des pouvoirs qui sont surtout par les hommes riches. Ce sont eux qui vont contrôler des municipalités. Ils sont eux qui vont être responsables pour payer des impôts pour la douane et qui vont contrôler l'économie nationale. Hein. On a aussi un processus de renforcement de la centralisation parce qu'on va voir après, c'est des conflits entre le gouvernement central au Portugal et les propriétaires capverdiens. Les propriétaires capverdiens voulaient maintenir l'esclavage, les conditions de super-exploitation, mais avec le libéralisme, on va assouplir ces conditions. Nous avons des conflits avec les mortgages, qui sont les propriétaires fonciers, par rapport à la décision libérale qui va régler mieux les questions de l'exploitation. Mais quelque chose qui est très intéressant et est marquant pour le cas du Cap-Vert, c'est la création et l'expansion de l'école publique, hein, des écoles primaires, écoles secondaires, qui va former les jeunes qui vont par l'administration au Cap-Vert et après dans les autres colonies du Portugal. Cet mécanisme de la scolarisation aussi, comme je crois que parmi les autres pays aussi, mais d'autres pays, en France par exemple, c'est la scolarisation a changé les mécanismes de reproduction. Ça veut dire que le destin, ce n'est pas décisif par rapport au mécanisme, parce que ce n'est pas la famille qui est responsable pour l'éducation, c'est l'école. Et l'école, il faut avoir des bons résultats pour avoir un diplôme. La scolarisation a fait aussi à Cap-Vert, c'est un mécanisme que la possession du capital scolaire n'est plus apanage des familles qui sont plus possessives. Hein. Et c'était au moitié du 19e siècle, on créait les séminaires lycées. On va former des jeunes qui vont pour l'administration au Cap-Vert, mais le marché du Cap-Verdien, c'est très petit. Ils sont allés pour d'autres pays, surtout la Guinée-Bissau, qui était un pays jusqu'à la fin du 19e siècle administré par le Cap-Vert. Cap-Vert est responsable pour l'administration de Guinée jusqu'à 1880, hein, jusqu'à la fin du 19e siècle. C'est une dimension intéressante, c'est que quand on regarde dans le sommet de l'administration, par exemple, en 1851, tous les directeurs de douane qui est plus important poste dans l'administration, parce que c'est la finance, c'est l'argent, les directeurs, ce sont des naturels du Cap-Vert. Ce sont descendants des élites foncières et commerciales du Cap-Vert. Vous ne trouvez pas des Portugaises dans l'administration. L'administration au siècle XIX était dominée par les naturels, les fils qui sont natifs du Cap-Vert. Ce sont des élites capverdiennes qui étaient au sommet de l'administration. Au sommet, ça veut dire au directeur, parce que le gouverneur était surtout sur le portugais. Et après des années au XXe siècle, des années 30, le Portugal a expansion de la colonisation, hein, surtout au Guinée-Bissau, la guerre de la pacification, on dit ça, mais le Portugal était, la colonisation, c'était littoral, ce n'est pas à l'intérieur. C'est l'époque, la fin du 19e siècle, jusqu'à 1940, on va trouver des vagues de colons portugais qui sont partis surtout à Angola et Moçambique, parce qu'Anvers c'est un pays pauvre, Angola, Moçambique et Guinée-Bissau. Hein? Et là, à cette époque, le Portugal fait l'expansion de l'État. Au Cap-Vert, vous avez des élites qui étaient formées à l'administration, qui étaient formées, qui étaient déjà scolarisées, qui sont des fonctionnaires intermédiaires, qui vont ser des médiateurs entre la tradition administrative coloniale portugaise et la population autochtone. Le Cap-Vert n'a pas une tradition administrative avant sa découverte, mais les Cap-Verdiens ont un rôle important dans la politique d'assimilation, dans la politique de contrôle administratif des populations, surtout Guinée, Angola et Mozambique. Les statuts d'indigénat, c'est un statut d'infériorité qui était imposé par la colonisation. Ils sont les Cap-Verdiens, surtout, qui vont participer à Guinée-Bissau, Angola et Mozambique dans les postes intermédiaires, des relations directes avec la population, avec des négociations et des gestions des conflits qu'il y avait entre l'administration coloniale et la tradition des pays qui étaient colonisés. La quatrième phase, c'est qu'on peut parler après l'indépendance, 1975. L'indépendance, ici, c'est une question intéressante. Le Cap-Vert, l'État-nation, c'était avant l'indépendance. Cap-Vert était déjà État-nation. Si on comprend pour l'État-nation un sentiment d'appartenance, l'administration pour tous les territoires, et avoir une langue, une religion qui sont communes. La majorité de la population était catholique et la population majorité parle créole avec des variations, mais tout le monde entend le créole dans toutes les îles. Bon, on a des premières phases qui étaient un État qui était imposé. Après l'indépendance, on a un modèle d'État qui était importé. L'État qui était importé pour l'influence des pays socialistes, des partis mondiaux, des partis uniques. La Constitution, après l'indépendance, établit que les partis est la force dirigeante de l'État et de la société. Ces partis monopolisent les structures de l'État et avaient le pouvoir de contrôler les forces de la société civile. C'était le mécanisme qui était... C'est une dictature, une dictature de mobilisation. Ce n'est pas une dictature militaire surtout, mais c'est une dictature de convaincre avec une idéologie pour créer une nouvelle génération, un nouveau homme, on va dire le terme d'Emile Cabral, c'est de créer une nouvelle génération. Et les partis au pouvoir monopolisent toute l'administration publique, les directions centrales et indirectes, les entreprises de l'État, surtout. Et ce qui est intéressant, c'est l'expansion. C'est un État qui fait l'expansion de l'éducation, de la santé, de la sécurité alimentaire, du transport. L'expansion de l'État, et ça c'est le dilemme du parti au pouvoir. Pour maintenir la légitimation, il a besoin de faire l'expansion de l'État. Il peut faire l'expansion de l'État, il a besoin de nouveaux cadres. Ce sont de nouveaux cadres qui vont se former, qui sont à l'administration, qui vont participer dans l'expansion de l'État pour accomplir les fonctions sociales. C'est cette élite qui était formée. Plusieurs d'eux sont venus c'est une élite qui est créée, artificielle, parce que ce n'était pas une élite qui vient d'un volet des hommes riches, des hommes propriétaires, mais surtout des fils de paysans qui sont créés, c'est une élite artificielle parce que c'était créé par l'État, et c'était créé par les partis uniques. Et nous avons une grande possibilité, grande question de mobilité à cette époque. Et c'est pour se dire que c'est une élite plus hétérogène parce qu'on va trouver beaucoup de gens qui sont bénéficiés de l'expansion de la scolarisation et des bourses des études pour étudier à l'étranger, ils vont bénéficier, ils vont rentrer au pays. Ça, c'est une question intéressante parce que ce sont eux, qui sont l'administration, qui vont organiser les mouvements pour l'ouverture politique. Hein. On peut dire que le cas de Cap-Vert, c'est un cas d'implosion du parti unique, qui sont les jeunes qui sont participés au parti unique, ce sont les jeunes cadres, surtout les juristes, qui vont soutenir, qui vont à la soutenance de les mouvements pour l'ouverture politique. La cinquième et dernière phase, que c'est qu'on va après l'ouverture politique, que c'est une ouverture qui était, comme j'avais dit, c'était très respectée parce que vous savez, une négociation, non pas des situations de violence politique. Le PAIGC qui était au pouvoir n'a pas utilisé le pouvoir militaire qui était faible au Cap-Vert parce que la lutte pour la libération, c'était au Guinée-Bissau. Ce n'est pas le Cap-Vert. Hein. Et nous n'avons pas les hommes des armées au Cap-Vert. Là, ce qu'on va voir après l'ouverture, c'est des réformes libérales, démocratiques, la séparation des pouvoirs, et mettre fin au monopole du parti sur l'État et la société. Hein. Et surtout, ce qui est intéressant, c'est le discours de valorisation de la compétence technique et de gestion. Hein. On va changer du discours des combattants, d'idéologie, des hommes qui sont combattants, mais des hommes qui sont management, qui sont de gestion. Hein. Et là, l'opposition, c'est entre la nouvelle génération, les générations nouvelles qui sont compétentes, qui sont cadres, qui sont formés, et les gens qui sont participés à l'utilisation, qui sont moins scolarisés. Hein. Et là, on a l'émergence d'une élite administrative très dominante par les élites, pour les juristes. Parfois, les 5 plus importants dirigeants du mouvement d'opposition, ce sont des hommes qui sont formés en droit, surtout au Portugal. Okay? Ils sont aussi des gestionnaires, c'est le discours des juristes et des managements. Ils sont recrutés dans la classe moyenne et des classes populaires. Mais ici, c'est intéressant, on va renforcer la culture d'importation du modèle d'organisation de l'État. Souvent, les juristes disent que c'est des droits comparés. Mais si on regarde bien, c'était la législation comparée, mais c'est la législation beaucoup copiée et adaptée du Portugal. Hein. C'est une chose intéressante. Ce sont aussi des gens qui sont dans l'élite administrative qui vont faire la reconversion, vont faire la circulation après la privatisation, sont eux aussi qui vont participer à les entreprises qui sont privatisées aussi. Et on a une circulation entre la politique, l'administration et les marchés. Au Cap-Vert, c'est très mélangé. Hein? C'est très mélangé, cette relation entre la politique, l'administration et les marchés. Et on va trouver dans cette période émergence, si nous avons une élite administrative qui est très politisée, on a aussi l'émergence d'une culture de businessmen, hein, qui sont à la fois des fonctionnaires qui sont en sommet de l'administration et même qui vont se convertir parfois dans la privatisation en tant qu'entrepreneurs et représentants des capitales étrangères. C'est une question très intéressante au Cap-Vert. C'est l'interface entre la politique, l'administration et les marchés. Hein. Bon, pour finaliser, je vais parler de quelques questions pour la réflexion sur la tradition administrative au Cap-Vert. C'était une tradition administrative qui était marquée pour la transposition du modèle portugais, mais qui était surtout la colonisation était faite à partir du 19e siècle pour les Capverdiens. Les Portugais sont plus représentatifs au Cap-Vert à partir de fin du 18e siècle et au 19e siècle. Hein. C'est une forte présence de la population du naturel du Cap-Vert dans l'administration, qui sont eux qui contrôlent la municipalité et des services gouvernementaux centraux. Les conflits, ce ne sont pas les conflits administratifs entre les populations qui ont une tradition administrative locale, mais entre l'élite locale et l'élite de la métropole. Parce que l'élite locale a besoin, ne voulait pas appliquer des législations qui étaient faites au Portugal parce que ça, c'est contre l'intérêt économique au Cap-Vert. C'est ça qu'on a la tension, parce que l'élite portugaise a besoin de l'élite capverdienne pour maintenir la domination. En même temps, ces élites revendiquent la capacité de décider au niveau de la municipalité et du contrôle de l'administration. Une autre question, c'est l'État-nation qui a été consolidé. Ce sont des Capverdiens qui vont faire la gestion du Cap-Vert, de tous les postes administratifs. Et la colonisation était le grand élément de transformation pour son regard la composition de l'administration au Cap-Vert. Et ce sont eux qui vont dominer le Cap-Vert, ils sont eux qui vont participer au Cap-Vert, sont au sommet de l'administration et dans la colonie de Portugal, Angola, Moçambique, Guinée-Bissau, ce sont eux qui vont faire l'interface, la médiation pour imposer des règles, des códigos administratifs par rapport à la tradition locale de la population locale dans ce pays. C'est une question intéressante au Cap-Vert. C'est une élite, c'était la classe qui était pouvoir économique au Cap-Vert au 19e siècle, et on reconvertit ce capital pour les capitales scolaires pour avoir des conditions de reproduire. L'État, on dit que la classe moyenne et la couche plus riche au Cap-Vert a besoin de l'État pour se reproduire. Hein. Reproduire en tant qu'au sommet de l'État, mais pour reproduire en tant que capacité d'accumulation dans les entreprises de l'État qui sont après privatisées. Donc, l'État, c'est une condition intéressante de la reproduction de l'élite capverdienne. Et finalement, avec l'avènement de l'État-nation, le Cap-Vert était déjà un État de droit. C'est une question intéressante que quand le Cap-Vert était indépendant en 1975, des Capverdiens, il a presque, on peut dire, un siècle de contrôle d'administration des municipalités et de la structure intermédiaire de domination coloniale. Ça veut dire que les Cap-Verts sont les Capverdiens, qui sont surtout eux qui ont fait la colonisation, ils sont eux qui ont participé à l'administration coloniale, ils sont coloniales au Cap-Vert et surtout à Guinée-Bissau, Angola et Mozambique. Thank you, merci pour votre attention.
Thank you very much, Crisanto. Merci beaucoup. And I think that was also really helpful for having translated the slides for those people maybe unfamiliar with French. If there are any specific questions because of the language, I think please raise them. Otherwise, I suggest let's move on to the discussion. And Adila, please, I hand over to you to lead the Q&A with the audience.
Thank you very much, Moustapha and Crisanto. You have given us a really rich overview of both the respective case studies, Cabo Verde and Senegal. And we have a good idea of a timeline as well, how each of the countries, they were organized, be it pre-colonial times, during colonial times, and you have also addressed contemporary administrative traditions. My question would be regarding the aspect of hybridity of administrative traditions. I mean, I'm curious to know whether could we argue that, okay, in the case of Moustapha here, what would be could it be that colonial influence has taken priority over pre-colonial times? Is there a timeline that has influenced the aspect of hybrid administrative traditions more than the other? Because if we reflect on contemporary times, how do we think about administrative traditions? Whether is it still hybrid, or is there a returning back to pre-colonial times, or something completely different? So I'm very curious from the different perspectives that you can provide, or if the answer is no, that was definitely not a particular time more influential than the other. I'm curious to hear that. Anyone would like to take the question, or should we take a few other questions as well before? Yep. Anyone else in the group chat? Feel free to raise your hand, and we can take a couple of questions together. Or yep. Mamdine, you had a question earlier.
Definitely, it connects a bit to your question, and so kind of what kind of how this hybridity looks like and whether does it exist. So if I understand, and please, I'm happy to get your perspectives on that. With your presentation, Moustapha, I kind of had the impression that hybridity can be understood in the sense of they're like a state in a state. There might be some formalities written down that seem to work, but then particularly at the end of your presentation, you started to speak also about the religious influences that seems to be like another state. And so that sounds quite interesting. And in your case, Crisanto, there, in a way, I asked myself, was there kind of a decolonizing movement ever, or is it in particular, it has been driven the whole process more from an elite, that this never really happened? So and questioning also whether is there really, how hybrid is the context or not. I don't know, maybe Moustapha, if you want to start to.
If you can please say it again in French so that I can.
Oui, bien sûr. J'avais l'impression, pour savoir la hybridité de tradition en Sénégal, mon impression c'était comme il y a comme un État dans l'État. Il y avait, surtout quand tu parlais à la fin sur l'influence des religions, des acteurs religieux, j'avais l'impression comme il y a quelque chose d'écrit, mais après il y a quelque chose qui se passe à côté qui est plus informel, mais quand même très important.
Ok, je vais le dire en français et tu vas essayer de traduire pour les autres. Ok? Ok, ce que j'appelle l'hybridité, effectivement, c'est ça, parce que il y avait avant des systèmes d'administration traditionnels et des royaumes, l'empire et tout. Et quand l'administration est venue à installer une nouvelle administration, mais n'a pas forcément détruit ce qui existait avant. Les administrations traditionnelles continuent d'exister, ont leur gouvernement. Par exemple, moi, je suis Lébou. Jusqu'à présent, il existe un gouvernement ou bien une administration Lébou avec un chef suprême, avec des ministres et tout. Ils ont des terres, ils ont de l'argent, ils ont des activités, mais ça, ce n'est pas l'administration officielle. Et ça continue d'exister à côté de l'État, mais l'État n'intervient pas directement dans cette forme d'administration. Et dans ces pouvoirs locaux, cette administration locale-là, on reconnaît le pouvoir de l'État, on se soumet au pouvoir de l'État, mais on déroule à côté son fonctionnement local. Like I says for Lebus, which is my community. We do have a supreme chief, we do have some ministers, il y a aussi un patrimoine, etc. Et ça existe à côté de l'État, donc les deux systèmes continuent à fonctionner, mais l'administration principale, le pouvoir principal, c'est l'État.
Thank you very much. I quickly translate. So in a way, as I understood that, so there were all these pre-colonial forms of governance, but when colonial time entered, it doesn't mean that the previous institutions were kind of destroyed. They continued to exist, but there was kind of implemented another system, more Napoleonic one. And this kind of system seems to coexist and sometimes don't really intervene with each other.
Thank you, Mamdin. I think that was a good translation as well. And we have two hands that are raised. Clément first, and then Adama.
Thank you very much, Moustapha, and our colleague from Cape Verde. It was a wonderful presentation. I like it. I've got a question to Professor Moustapha. I want to find out how and to what extent religions has influenced the stability of the regime in Senegal. And I was so curious to hear that you are the rare country in sub-Saharan Africa who haven't known coup d'etat. What was wonderful. So I want to find out to what extent religions have influenced the stability or political stability in Senegal. Thank you.
What I can say is that here in Senegal, we have religion and we do have some groups, names confrères. We have Mourids, we have Tijans, we have other groups. And those who are Mourids accept to obey to the chief of this community. If the chief says, okay, I ask you to vote for this guy, not all of them will do that, but most of them will vote for this guy. If there is some troubles, if the chief of the communities, religious community says, stop traveling, they all stop. And even if there is some troubles, the President of the Republic go to see the religious chief to ask him to talk to the Senegalese citizen so that they stop making troubles. And if this chief say, stop making troubles, they stop. Even recently, between Sonko, who is our president, and Macky Sall, our former president, we have some troubles, and sometimes many young people says go to the palace and put him out, put the president out, and so on. Like, let us make fire in Senegal. And Macky Sall sees the religious chief of the Murid, and this guy is asked to Sonko, who was the opposite party, to stop making troubles. He does it, and they stop. You know, sometimes the religious power is more listed than the administrative one, and these cohabitate. Politics they need religious powers, like the religious powers need the political or administrative powers.
Generally, I can say that more generally people, citizens are listening more to religious chief than the politician, which means that, religious chief have more legitimacy in the term of controlling action of citizen than a politician. So another question that I want to find out, so why the religious chief are not happy with someone like Abdoulaye Wade, and then why they can't just take a general and support another general so to organize a coup d'etat and take over because they disagree with a politician, and why they only want in a peaceful way transition? That I don't understand, because they can only support someone, but if it's the politician always like to stay forever. in the power, and which means that they may be in disagreement with the religious chief. So why those can't support someone in order to take? Why they always lack peaceful transition compared to other Islamic countries? That I want to find out.
Okay, it is not to say that religions are not sometimes political. Some religions have their own political parties. Okay, and they're very influential. They are at the assembly. They are in sometimes minister and so on. But religions are more and more now being politicals. But some of them, the great chiefs, are well listened by citizens, but others not. Now our religions are very intelligent. They will not say vote for this guy, but they receive all them. They give advices and so on. But former religious chiefs used to say vote for Senghor, vote for Abdou Diouf, vote for Abdoulaye. But those from now are very intelligent. They listen to all them, and even if they have some consigne, what do you say, consigne of what to give? How do you say consigne?
Instructions, advice, instructions.
Instruction. Even if they have instructions, they will not do it like public. Okay, they can ask to those who are in their circle of advisors to try to manage for this to be elected or not. But they're very intelligent by the way of being religious and dealing with politicals.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah, thank you, Clément, for the questions, and thank you as well, Moustapha, for these interesting insights as well. As we are running short on time, let us address Adama's last question, and then we can wrap things up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm really happy to have Moustapha with us today, and this is a real pleasure for me. So this is not a question, but it is a comment. I think the big shifts that happened in Senegal during colonial time is the change of the way the governance was established. Colonial administration used written communication that was quite different with traditional administration before. And the school has played a big role in this shift. They have trained some intermediaries. So the civil servants was not supposed to serve the people, but serve the colonials, you see? And unfortunately, after the independence, the civil servants, they are not really aware that they are serving the people. They continue to think that they are just intermediaries. And another dimension of this shift is also the change of rule, the law, regulations, all these kind of things comes from France. And the use of the language too. Civil servants, even the presidents of the Republic of Senegal, when talking to Senegalese, where over 80% do not speak French, he will speak in French. And this is something we should think of to see how far the administration of Senegal address question properly to the real people they are supposed to be serving. This is just some. I'm reacting as an archivist. I'm an archivist, so I know that administration works with archives. Without archives, there is no administration, and they are serving people that are not who are not used to written world, and this is a real problem to be addressed. Thank you, Moustapha. Really happy to have you all. And this was a really interesting webinar. Thank you.
so much.
Thank you, Adama. And actually, on the topic of shifts in governance, these are really insightful comments, and these are things that we are looking further as well in regards to changes in public administrative traditions over time and the influences of previous colonial times and other aspects as well. And that brings me to a really good transition into the next slide about our next webinar, because there's a reason why we are following this pattern for our webinar series. And we are looking at the different case studies. We are extracting lessons, and we are learning much from everyone's contributions, including our attendees as well. And for our next webinar, I believe, Amar, you will be covering the next webinar's information. My point is, we will be addressing the ideas of Mauritius context and so on. Sorry, Amar, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so on to our fourth webinar in the series. It'll be the last for the year. I want you to mark it in your diaries. That's the 13th of November. We're going to take a tour now through Ghana and Mauritius. We're going to have Dr. Nanaya Gyamfi, I understand, is in the audience with us today. She'll be taking us through traditions in Ghana. She's currently a lecturer of management at the China-Europe International Business School. She holds a PhD in management from YESE Business School, an MSc in organizational behavior from the London School of Economics, BSc in administration and accounting from the University of Ghana Business School. Dr. Gyamfi's research focuses on cultural identity and multinational work contexts. And she's received several awards, including the Emerald Literary Award for Outstanding Author Contribution. So we're very pleased to have her for our next webinar. Next, we have our very own Dr. Adila Kodabaks, who will be taking us through the administrative traditions for Mauritius. And at the moment, Dr. Kodabaks is Director for LEADA, which is an acronym for Leading Enhancement in Data Analysis. So it's a research advocacy organization based here in Mauritius. After studying for a BA in Political Science and an MSc in International Development at the University of Birmingham, Adila completed her PhD in International Relations at Middlesex University. As an independent researcher, her current research focuses on the topic of African governance. As well as being one of the co-founders of CASP, Adila also sits on an expert panel of the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, where she advises on the review and implementation of the Ibrahim Index for African Governance. So we're looking forward to that. And we also want you to keep being informed about CASP. So we're also on all the favorite social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn, X, Instagram. And please also visit our website at CASP.org. You'll see that we have all of our webinars archived on there. And this will also be on there as well. And you can also follow us for all the work that we'll be doing into the future. So I want to thank you everyone for joining us today. We've had some really great discussions. You can see our contact details are there. Feel free to email us or keep in contact and all the different methods that we have. We look forward to seeing you all in November and into the future as well. We'll have our last, you may have seen it in the previous slide, the last webinar that's going to culminate in all the discussions that we've had, and that'll be in March of next year. So you may want to also mark that in your diary. There we have it there. It's the final webinar where we'll be looking at all the cases. So thanks very much, everyone, for joining us, and look forward to seeing you all in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you
Have a
to our
nice day.
speakers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye,
Anthony.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Moustapha. Thank you, Crisanto.
Thank you all. Thank you. See you later.
See you.